So what was your job title and what were your main responsibilities?
So I was at a large law firm for 32 years. I started out as an associate in the early 80s, having been a summer associate, which is kind of like an intern, and then went back as a regular lawyer after clerkship out of law school. And I had three or four different careers, but in each case I started out as an associate and then as a partner, and pretty much stayed in that throughout. I went in-house for a short time. And my responsibilities and areas that I worked in were typical of anybody in a law firm. More research and writing when you're younger. As I got older, more supervisory responsibilities. But one of the things I found in a law firm is no matter how senior you are, you're still doing the young associate work. And if you're lucky as a young associate, sometimes you get some of the more senior positions. It depends on the nature of the firm and how it works.
Mm-hmm. What initially attracted you to this line of work and how'd you get started?
I don't know. I have a couple of different answers. A bit about me. I have thought about this a lot. And I think that the safe and easy answer is I didn't think it through carefully. My career choices were not intentional or particularly informed. I thought about the ministry when I was a teenager, never talked to a minister or a pastor, then went into law without talking to a practicing lawyer. I think there were 3 or 4 influences for me. One is, I think as it turns out in retrospect, I have some aptitude to be a lawyer. I was a debater in college, on the college debate team. All but one of us went to law school. I think that's not a minor influence. You could say which came first, because I was also attracted to debate, which is about arguing and so forth. My father hated lawyers the way a lot of people hate lawyers, the lawyer jokes and all that stuff. But in fact, as I got older, I appreciated more and more how much he respected them. And Dad was a boatyard operator, so his world was very separate from the law world. And I watched his respect for me grow as I went to law school and went into a law firm. And I always dismissed that as a factor, but as I've gotten older, I've reflected more and more on that, maybe because I have 2 boys who are right in that stage at this moment. So I think it was a respectable career. The rest of the answer really involves backing into it. Afraid of blood, wasn't going to do anything medical. Couldn't stand the idea of working for large corporations selling products to people I didn't know and things I didn't care about. I signed up for one interview in college in a Fortune 500 company in Connecticut and canceled the interview without even showing up, and graduated without a job. And I had not applied to law school. I kind of sensed in the back of my mind that I might. I went to law school thinking that I would use the law as a launching pad to do other things. A law degree, my older brother said this and I agreed with it. A law degree then was the equivalent of a college degree in the 1930s. It opens doors. And I really believe it does. There's some magic dust, which I think is not deserved, but it's there, that a law degree opens doors and creates options and opportunities for you. So I'm in law school. I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do with this law degree thing? And all these law firms come to law school and they interview. And so you think, well, I'll sign up for an interview because it's right here. And if you're lucky, you get an offer for a summer. You think, I'll do that. And it just leads one thing to another. So I went into the law firm without having explored alternatives. What do I do with my law degree? And I said, I'll do law for 2 years. And what I discovered was that my learning curve was very steep. And I went to maybe year 4 or 5 and did aggressive looking at other things, government jobs, in-house jobs, non-law jobs, teaching, which has always been an interest of mine. And I ended up not seeing anything or finding anything that really appealed to me. Thought, well, I'll see if I can make partner, because in a law firm you're an associate for a while, then you become eligible for the partnership. I was elected partner, had a client I really liked at the time. That costed me 4 or 5 years. Did that until I kind of hit a wall because I was in an area of law that I wasn't very happy with. Tried going in-house, didn't like that, went back to the same law firm and hit a bit of a wall because the area of law that I had been in, which was mostly banking deals and some technology deals, was not appealing to me. So I moved more and more into an area that I had stumbled into, life sciences law, life sciences deals, and did that for, I would call it, the second half of my career. And we can talk about that, but I found that to be much more rewarding.
Segue into describing the job atmosphere and the people with whom you work.
It clearly varies. It varies, and it's mostly influenced by who your colleagues are and who your clients are. And my career in a law firm went up and down over the 32 years. I had great runs and I had terrible runs. And it was influenced totally by those two things. Who are the colleagues, who are the clients? Quick aside, my older son's baccalaureate address was focused on the economics of happiness. And they said by far the two biggest things that influence your happiness at work are the length of your commute and who you work with. And so think about all the other things that are said. He said study after study shows that. So setting aside the commute, I can absolutely confirm that it is who you work with. So in my first several years, I worked in a practice group that was notorious for, trying to be polite here because I'm on video, difficult people. And they were notorious in my firm for being difficult. And one of my survival strategies, which really worked, was to try to find something in each of them that I admired. And this person might be enormously difficult, but they were a success in some way, so I looked for that thing and tried to emulate it. Sometimes I had to work hard to find that thing. Sometimes it was obvious. That helped. I found in those early years that the colleagues at my level, the younger lawyers, I made great friendships. Partly because we were in a battle together. We were, and we would stand in for each other over vacations. I'm going off for 2 weeks, and my friend would say, "I'll cover for you," and the bonds that those create are very strong. Janet, my wife, and I, she was a practicing lawyer. Some of our great friendships, which last to this day, are friendships that were made out of that. On the client side, a difficult client can be enormously stressful and challenging. Reject your advice, unrealistic demands. I found the poorer the quality of the client, the more they complained, the less likely they were to pay bills, the less they understood how to have an interaction with lawyers, and that added enormous stress. On the positive side, so I end this in a good way, I at my law firm, I have a long list of heroes. I mean, people that I just think are giants, not as lawyers. There are a lot of good lawyers everywhere, a lot of bad ones, but a lot of good ones, and I had the pleasure of dealing with a lot of good lawyers. But as people, and as counselors, and as lawyers in a position to guide the behavior of others. And we have these things called law books and statutes, but it's really about guiding. And I could go on for 3 hours listing the people at my firm who I have so much admiration for. And so what I did over my career is I tried more and more. I actually changed practices to some degree to work with people that I blended better with. And when you're on a good run with a couple clients you like, it's a wonderful thing. That client, when I made partner, was one of those clients. It was a large regional bank that did deals, and they had people that I admired greatly. And it made an enormous difference in my outlook and my day-to-day life. The challenge is you can't always influence who you work with and who the clients are. As I got older, I was able to do that more. when you're younger, it's not always easy to do that, and that's a challenge.
How did the job impact your lifestyle, your time, your resources, your health, your family?
Pretty much the way you typically hear about lawyers. This is a horribly pejorative way to describe law practice, but I often describe law practice as a beast. And if you put in 95% of what was expected of you, the beast could catch you and eat you. And if you put in 105%, you would stay ahead of the beast and you could be in control of your life. And that's only 10% difference. But that 10% is painful. I will not pretend that it's not intense, and the hours can be long. Sometimes they're not. And there are lots of lawyers who have great, especially part-time or managed careers. But for many people, it's easy to succumb, especially in an occupation that's dominated by type A personalities. I saw some of my friends who were just over the top, overcommitted, and putting them in a law firm or a company that's demanding is like taking a drunk into a bar and expecting them not to drink.
Did your career relate to your life mission?
No and yes. So the first half, which I mentioned in my career, was banking lawyer, technology lawyer. I had a 3-year run that was very fun because a friend of mine who was a partner at my firm went in-house at the Recording Industry Association, and he hired me for 3 years in the late 90s to help him negotiate deals to stream music on webcasting services from the record companies. And I had fun doing that. It was, part of determining value of music on the internet in the days when the internet was still relatively young. So those things were fun, but the banking deals I liked less. The process was kind of interesting. What I discovered was that I worried that I was a widget lawyer. And what I mean by that is if I dropped dead, somebody else would come in and do exactly the same job. Now, I don't mean to disparage anybody who wants a career in banking law, because there's amazing things that you can do, and I did do some things in there that were really, really interesting. It just didn't drive me. And I was not happy in my career. I was disrespectful of myself for not going through the process of finding something better for myself. And it became quite a personal challenge for me. And I had, by that time, after 15, 16 years, I'd been a partner for a while, and people didn't understand. They looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? You're a partner in a major national law firm, and it's prestigious. And I never cared about that. That never drove me. And I think it was because I really found that I wasn't feeling that I was making a difference. And I don't need to be one of those guys that changes the world. It's not what I'm about, but I wanted to feel like I was furthering a mission that I cared about. This church, the church that I'm a member of, was defining in helping me understand that question. And it is not a coincidence that I was in a small group around the time that I was probably at my greatest crisis, having done this 15, 16 years, in helping understand who I was, what my job was, and what role I could play in making a difference. And it's not a coincidence that I moved into life sciences. I'll never forget a meeting I had with a chairman of my firm and somebody else who was in the field, and I was doing it part-time, and he said, we either hire somebody like me full-time, or we get Parker to commit to this. And I said, I will try this for 1 year. And it was a tough year in which to choose to do it because the industry was in bad shape, but I never looked back. And all the things I said about counseling became a dominant part of what my practice was. As I said to clients, I can tell you that these deals are complicated enough that if you hire me, it'll be different because I've been involved, because I'll use my personality, I'll use who I am. I hope it's better. It might be worse. And by the way, I had no background in life sciences. Never took biology, didn't need it. I just said, you have to explain it to me in ways that I can understand it. And that second half of my career in life sciences it fulfilled what you were asking was my mission, in the sense that I look back with great satisfaction and pride in having taken a difficult job, and as I like to say, I changed careers without changing my job. And I think that is possible in many jobs. Not any job, that's not fair. Law firms do offer that flexibility. Sometimes companies do, if you're lucky. Sometimes a nonprofit would. But I turned it into something where I felt like I was using my best skills and the things that I enjoyed doing the most, and the difference that I felt I had, some of the personality characteristics that I have. I honestly used to think of my mother when I would do this part of it. Mom is a wonderful counselor. She still is at 97. And those skills that I learned from her or absorbed from her were where I made a difference. And I feel good about that, and I'm glad I made that change.
Good segue into, can you describe a person who would excel in this field?
Yeah. You got to be a nerd, right? Come on, tell me it's not true. If you're one of those people who drives down highways and looks for typos on highway signs, the law is for you. If you're not a nerd, or if you're not prepared to be a nerd, and by that I mean detail-oriented, it doesn't have to be obsessive-compulsive disorder. It doesn't hurt. But somebody who is, if you're a high-level person, you're interested in big picture and you're waving your hands all the time, as I am now, about the greater things in life, then and many of those go into law, and I saw them, and they were good half lawyers, as I would call them. They could drive deals, they could generate visions, clients loved them, and they addressed their defects by surrounding themselves with people who were detail people. And it may be that if you are that kind of person and you want to be a lawyer, do it, but don't go into a law firm as an associate, or go into a company where you're part of a larger team where you're having to drive the detail. You'll be miserable. But if you are able to do those kinds of things, and the details, as I said to young lawyers at the later stages of my career, I wash windows still, and I did first-year associate work as a senior partner. And I was fine with that, and sometimes I really enjoyed it. The satisfaction of a really good document, a draft of an agreement or a memo that's really good. I did derive satisfaction from that. And I think the higher calling of the law is the law as an instrument for social justice, for improving products that make human health better, for making our commercial system better, for recognizing rights of people. You can list it on and on and on. I worked on death penalty cases. I clerked for a great civil rights judge. I saw the law at its best. And in the 1980s, when I went into law, a lot of people went into law for the wrong reasons. There was a TV show called LA Law. Remember that? Yes. Lots of people went into law because of that show. There are some terrible lawyers that came out of that generation, because they went in. My law firm was filled with people who should not have been lawyers. I'm not sure I should have been a lawyer, notwithstanding everything I've said. But if you have that deeper drive, the kind of use of law that I'm describing, I want you to go to law school, and I want you to practice law, because the world needs that kind of lawyer. And they're all over the place. You read about them in the newspapers, and they're doing great things.